In 2005, what began as a verbal argument between a mother and a daughter escalated to a deadly confrontation. Kitchen knives were thrown at each other and a physical fight broke out. At some point during the chaos, they slammed into the wall, accidentally turning off the lights, which left them to fight in total darkness. When the lights were turned on, 18-year-old Juliana Llamoja saw her mother lifeless, lying in a pool of her own blood. She had 65 stab wounds. Juliana told authorities that her mom killed herself, but this convinced no one. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing super well. Thank you all so much for being here. Today, we're going to be talking about a case from 2005 that just really took Peru by surprise. It was a case all over the news due to the circumstances surrounding it, and since it had to do with a very well-known family with ties to the judicial system. We will be talking about what happened to 47-year-old María del Carmen Martinez and how her daughter, 18-year-old Juliana Llamoja, murdered her inside her own home. Juliana claimed that it was self-defense, but that didn't convince the public. This case has not only been polarizing in the media, but in Maria's own family as well. Half of her family was full of rage because Juliana killed her own mother, and they immediately cut ties with her, while others in the family, specifically on her husband's side, were in support of Juliana, saying that her actions were justified. There is a lot of information to go over in this case, and before we get into it, I do just want to take a quick moment to thank today's sponsor for supporting this channel. Thank you to Rocket Money for sponsoring today's video. The other day, I just wasted so many hours trying to cancel my streaming subscriptions. It's insane how much I was paying for services that I don't even use. I'm also really trying to budget this year and cut costs in any way that I can. Thankfully, Rocket Money is here to help. Rocket Money is an all-in-one personal finance app that helps you cancel subscriptions, lower bills, and manage your money better. It's such an easy app to use, and I just really enjoy using Rocket Money to cancel any unwanted subscriptions. It's super easy. All you have to do is connect your bank account, and then Rocket Money identifies all of your subscriptions in a single list. From there, just select the ones that you don't want anymore, and then Rocket Money may be able to help you cancel with just a few taps. There's also an amazing feature where Rocket Money can create a customized budget in seconds. The app can show you where all of your money is going to at all times and identifies your top spending categories with insights on how you can stay within your budget better. This is so incredibly helpful because you could be overspending and not even know it. They will also notify you about any upcoming charges or when your balance is low to help you avoid overdrafts and late fees. Rocket Money has helped its customers save up to $740 a year when you use all of the app's premium features. Take control of your finances today. Go to rocketmoney.com/Jackie to get started for free. Thank you again to Rocket Money for supporting this channel, and with that, let's jump right into this case. We don't know much about Maria's early life, but we do know that Maria was dedicated to building a wonderful life alongside her husband, Luis Llamoja Flores. She worked as a secretary for a military office while Luis was a well-respected judge. With Luis's high-paying and just well-respected position, the Llamojas lived very comfortably. Maria and Luis later went on to have 3 children together. They had a girl named Juliana and then 2 boys named Luis and Reich. Now, for most parents, the firstborn tends to hold a very special place in their hearts, and this was no exception for Luis. Juliana was the apple of his eye, and he just absolutely adored her. He gave her everything that he could. He spoiled her and just made sure that she was always happy. Juliana was born on October 15th, 1986 in Lima, Peru, and since day one, Juliana adored her dad just as much as he adored her. She always had like a very special bond with him. As Juliana got older, she really thrived in the creative arts. She loved learning about art, she loved dancing, reading, and by the time she was 13 years old, she especially loved poetry. She actually won various poetry contests and just couldn't stop writing. When time came to enroll in university and think about what she wanted to do for the rest of her life, she decided that she wanted to be just like her father. She wanted to become a judge. Although Juliana loved poetry, she loved her father more and wanted to make him proud of her. She enrolled at the Sacred Heart Women's University, an all-girls Catholic private school in Lima, Peru, where she began studying law. And she was doing very well in school. As for the rest of the family, family dynamic, while her brothers were very close to their mother and enjoyed being with her, Juliana didn't. Their relationship was never really good or as close as her and her father's, but when Juliana got older, it just kept getting worse and worse. According to Juliana's brother, Luis, who we will be referring to a lot throughout the video, he says that Juliana and his mom fought nearly every single day over all kinds of things, such as the type of clothing that Juliana would wear, how she did her makeup, how Juliana would arrive home late or not even come back home at all, how she wouldn't let her mom know where she was going or with who, which especially made their mom upset because Maria just didn't like the group of friends that Juliana hung out with. Juliana would talk back to her and just be rude. She would steal money from her mom's purse. She would steal jewelry from her mom's closet, just do things like that. Luis also says that one time Juliana actually stole a credit card from one of her classmates from the university, and she actually went to an ATM and used the card and took out some cash. Now, she was caught for doing this, and their dad had to pay to avoid the situation being escalated to the police. It was as if the rules just didn't apply to her. As much as Maria tried to enforce them, she simply couldn't. Juliana would also throw things in her mother's face and say things such as, "This is why my dad loves me more than you," or "You just hate me because I'm doing better than you since you never went to college, but I am." And then she would just pile on by saying, "You're just a secretary, what do you know?" She would say other things along those lines, just very hurtful statements. As for how Juliana describes her mom, she said in an interview, quote, "My mom was very explosive. Nothing was good enough for her. We always fought over any dumb things. I don't remember what caused this fight, but once she got mad and went into my room and destroyed all of my things, my perfumes and my clothes." Juliana would always go to her father after these arguments and he would calm her down and just basically always choose her side. Maria would try to tell Luis, we need to control our daughter, you need to control her and to put some rules down, but it would just result in more arguments. Her father didn't really put down any authorities, so the person that was in her way from fulfilling her life and doing what she wanted was her mother. Maria and Juliana were constantly shouting at each other, and Juliana's friends, the family, and even neighbors heard or witnessed these arguments. It was a fact that Juliana and Maria just never got along, and hearing them fight was basically normal. Everyone was just used to this. Juliana was a completely different person with her mom. She was just bitter and angry towards her, but to her father, she was very lovey and happy. One time, Juliana's dad said if she were ever to die, he would die as well. According to Maria's twin sister, Carmen, so Juliana's aunt, she says she believed Juliana didn't get along with her mom because she saw her mother as a threat. I know, when I heard that too, I was like, wait, what? A threat about what? Well, Carmen says that Juliana and her father had a unique relationship, one that most fathers and daughters didn't have. She could never confidently say that Juliana and her father had a more romantic relationship, but she said that she always felt that in her gut. She said Juliana would diminish her sister's title of wife and mother, saying, quote, she'd sit on her father's lap, they'd go to the movies, to the beach to eat, they'd get home at 10 or 11 p.m., she'd dress to show off. And if the whole family were to go on outings together, Juliana would sit in the passenger seat of the car and Maria would sit in the back. Carmen said that her sister would call her frequently crying at how her family dynamic was just so damaged and broken. She just knew that it caused her sister so much pain and just so much distress. As for Juliana's brothers, like I said earlier, they had a really good relationship with their mom. They loved her. They adored her. They went out to eat with her. They confided in each other and overall just had a really beautiful relationship. They didn't understand why their sister Juliana was just so rebellious and just couldn't get along with their mother as easily as they did. They wanted Juliana to fix things with their mom so there wouldn't be any more problems. But that never happened because on Saturday, March 5th, 2005, their mom was murdered. That week, Juliana's father was out of town in Argentina for work and the youngest brother, 12-year-old Raj, went with him. So in the family home, it was just going to be Maria, Juliana, and Luis for a couple of days. That week was pretty tough for Maria. According to Luis, Juliana's brother, right after their father left, Juliana stole a piece of jewelry from her mom's closet. She also didn't come home to sleep one night, and then the following day she arrived wearing different clothing, which made Maria really mad and caused an argument. Regardless, another night Juliana snuck out again. Then another night she got home really drunk and began banging on the door at night around midnight to be let in because she forgot her keys. Luis says that he remembers waking up to the ruckus and hearing his mom shout at Juliana that she just can't be doing this anymore, that she can't be acting this way, and that this was the last time that she would be arriving in the state, and that Juliana got so mad at her and told her, quote, I do what I want, I'm 18, don't get involved. The following day, Juliana woke up and asked her mom for money for a school workshop, and her mom gave it to her. After all, it was for school. Luis says that as soon as Juliana left to go to school, his dad called and just asked how things were going. Maria told him that things were going fine. I mean, these fights had basically become daily occurrences, so things were, quote, normal, and she said that Juliana had gone to the school workshop and that she and Luis were just at home hanging out. Side note, Luis was 17 years old at this time. I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, and Juliana was 18. So Juliana's dad hears that she went to a workshop for school and asked Maria, like, what, are you sure? Juliana didn't have any school workshops today or any classes or anything to do with school today, which made Maria really mad. Juliana lied to her face to get money to go who knows where with who knows who. So all of these things were happening almost back to back, and things in the house were just really tense. Juliana and her mom had been fighting the entire week, and on Saturday, March 5th, 2005, one of these fights turned deadly. That Saturday, Luis and his mom woke up early to go get his school supplies. He had just been accepted into university, so his mom wanted to go get him new notebooks, new clothes, and things like that. They went to the bank to go get some cash for the supplies, but that's when Maria realized that she actually left her card back at home. So she was like, oops, like I guess we can't get the cash today, like we'll just go back home and then we can come back tomorrow to get your things. Now, I'm not sure why they didn't just go get the card at the house and then return to the bank. Maybe they had like other things to do that day, and if they went back home and then came back, it would kind of just like derail their day. I'm not really sure. When they arrived back home, Juliana wasn't there. They were kind of just hanging out there doing their own thing, and then at around 2-3 p.m., Luis asked his mom if he could go skating with his friends to a nearby skate park, and she said, yes, go have fun with your friends. Luis says that when he left the house, he hugged his mom, and he immediately just felt silly for doing so because he was going to see her later that night. Little did he know that that was the last time that he would ever hug his mom. So Luis went skating, and after some time, he went back home to change his clothes so that he could go out to eat with his friends. He says when he returned home, only Juliana was there, and he saw something that kind of caught him off guard. He saw Juliana in the kitchen serving herself a glass of soda from like this huge Coca-Cola bottle. Now, he thought that this was really weird because Juliana never drank soda, yet here she was with this giant bottle. She didn't drink soda or unhealthy food since she tried taking care of her figure, and she just in general, again, just never drank soda. So Luis sees this and is like, okay, that's really weird. Like, I've never seen her do this before, but whatever. He ignored it. He rushed upstairs to change his clothing so that he could go back out and eat with his friends. At around 11 p.m. that night, Luis returned home. He tried opening the front door, but it was locked from the inside, which I'm assuming was like with like a latch or like a chain or something like that. So he begins knocking on the door, and he's just there knocking and knocking, but no one opens up. He says he knocked for a good 5 minutes until Juliana hastily opened the door wearing just a towel. Luis was like, hello, why didn't anyone open up? Like, I've been out here knocking forever. But Juliana ignored him and just walked away. So Luis was like, okay, whatever, and he went to the kitchen to grab some grapes. He went upstairs to watch some TV, and then later he went back downstairs to grab more grapes. While he was in the kitchen grabbing his snack, he had the urge to pee. Now, instead of going all the way upstairs to use like his main bathroom, he thought that he would just use the guest bathroom, which was on that same floor. It was almost never used. It was mainly used by, of course, guests or by the lady that would go clean the house. So he never really used that bathroom, but he was like, okay, I just really have to go. I'll just use this one. He approached the bathroom door, but it was locked, which just made no sense. The light was off in the bathroom and no one replied when he knocked. He peeked his head through like a little window, and I'll put an example here of what it could have looked like. So he peeks through the window and it's dark, but he can see legs. Then he sees a body lying on the floor. He screams in horror and shouts at Juliana, asking if their mom is in the bathroom or if it's the woman who helps him clean, and he's just in utter panic asking like, what is going on? Like, who is in our bathroom? Juliana comes running down, and she just kind of calmly peeks into the little window as well and backs up and tells Luis, I don't know who that is. Luis could only focus on getting in the bathroom and helping whoever it was, so he tried breaking down the door multiple times but couldn't. Then he just rushed to the neighbor's house and asked for help, and they called the authorities and they helped him break down the door. And unfortunately, when Luis got a better look inside, he realized that it was his mom lying face down in a pool of blood. Maria's glasses, which were broken, were near her body, as well as a knife handle without a blade. The entire scene just looked so violent, and to authorities, it was clear that this was a homicide. Luis says that this terrible feeling of electricity went all over his body and that he was hopeful that his mom would get help at the hospital, hospital, but unfortunately, it was just too late. Luis says that Juliana was actually acting normal this entire time and didn't say a word, nothing. She did have teary eyes, he said, but that was it. Authorities arrived and they began questioning what happened. They quickly learned that Juliana was the last one to see her mom alive and she was taken in for questioning. Coronel Alfredo Acuna with the Criminal Investigation Division interviewed her and she told him that when her mom arrived home, they began arguing and her mom pulled a knife out on her. Juliana said that she got scared and in order to defend herself, she grabbed the knife and, well, acted out in self-defense. And that in the midst of this physical altercation, her mom actually killed herself. Juliana said that her mom self-inflicted the stab wound to her neck, which was to her carotid artery that caused her to enter a hypovolemic shock, a rapid and massive loss of blood that caused her death. Maria's autopsy revealed that she had 65 stab wounds. Her face was completely disfigured, requiring 300 stitches. Maria had stab wounds to her arms, shoulders, chest, back, head, her ears, and her neck, injuries consistent with someone trying to defend themselves from a brutal attack. Juliana, on the other hand, only had a few scrapes and cuts to her hands and some bruising on her lower body. She was practically unharmed. So it could be that Maria was on the floor defending herself and Juliana was standing above her, attacking her. It made no sense to investigators that Juliana was acting in self-defense or that Maria would kill herself. They knew that Juliana was lying. Thankfully, though, they didn't have to wait much longer for the truth, because in the early hours of Sunday, Juliana decided to detail what actually happened. She said that it was actually her who pulled the knife on her mom first, not the other way around, and that she did cause injuries to her mom, but that again, she was only acting out of self-defense. She said that that day, she woke up from a nap in the late afternoon and decided to try on some new clothing that she had purchased. So she grabbed the mirror from the second floor bathroom and brought it down to the living room, which was on the main floor of the house. She put on some loud music and began having like a little mini fashion show by herself. She said that shortly after, her mom arrived home and that she arrived in a terrible mood. She saw that Juliana took the mirror out of the bathroom and told her that she never puts things back where they belong, and she also saw that the clothes was like scattered everywhere and heard the music playing super loud, which just like irritated her more. She said that the mirror was going to break and Juliana said that her mom basically exploded over seeing all of this and thought that she was trying on clothes to go see a boy that her mom didn't like approve of. So she said that they began arguing really badly, insulting each other, and says that her mom even threw a decorative clay vase at her, which broke. She said her mom was saying like really nasty things to her and telling her that she was never going to be happy in life, that was her life's curse. And Juliana replied to her saying that she just wishes that her dad would just divorce her already and that the only reason her dad was with her was because she did witchcraft on him. So yeah, things like were getting very, very heated, things were escalating, and this was like a very, very intense fight. Juliana says that the argument intensified even more when her mom accused her of trying to poison her with some rat poison packets that she found in the house. Now, in regards to this, Juliana told investigators that she found rat poison in the kitchen while she was trying to serve herself some soda. She said that she saw it and thought like, oh, like I wonder what will happen if I mix this rat poison into my soda. So she decided to do a little experiment. And if you recall, the day of the murder, when Luis came back home to briefly change his clothing before heading out with his friends, he was caught off guard at the sight of his sister with this like giant soda bottle, since again, she never drank soda. Well, that was that moment that Juliana is talking about. That's when she was doing her little test. She said that she poured the Coca-Cola in a glass with the rat poison and that the word mom did come into her head, and then she began thinking of poisoning her mom with it. But then she claims that she was like, no, Juliana, like, why are you thinking this? Like, we can't be thinking these thoughts. And she ended up just pouring the mixture out. She placed the open rat poison packet in the pocket of her jean shorts and just basically abandoned the idea of poisoning her mom. Now, according to Luis, he believes that she purchased the rat poison at a pet store or like some type of vet office that was near their house. He said that rat poison was something that they never had in their home, but as far as we know, investigators never actually went to ask the salesperson that sold it to her or check the cameras to confirm if she actually did purchase the rat poison or if she just found it. Either way, who does this? Who decides to do an experiment with soda and rat poison? I truly don't get what she was thinking, and the fact that she did think about poisoning her mom is just insane. Now, going back to the argument that Juliana and her mom were having, Juliana says that she just like left her mom talking by herself and arguing by herself, and she just entered the kitchen trying to ignore her and put an end to the argument. She left the music on, which was super loud, and in the kitchen, Juliana saw a watermelon and thought that she would cut herself some. But before she could, she said that her mom followed her into the kitchen and shouted at her to not leave her talking to herself, and Juliana said, quote, "In the kitchen, I saw a knife, grabbed it, and stabbed it into the table, telling her to shut up, that I was tired of her yelling. I also insulted her. My mom ran and grabbed 2 other knives that were in the dish rack near the sink and threw them at me. I dodged one and it crashed into the wall. The other fell near my legs." Juliana said that her mom grabbed another knife and chased her around the kitchen table, and at this point, Juliana too grabbed the knife that she had stabbed into the table and began hitting her mom with the handle of it. This physical altercation continued, and they ended up slamming against a wall and accidentally hitting the light switch. They both fell to the ground and continued fighting in the darkness. The loud music was still playing, so you can imagine how chaotic and frightening this must have been to just be fighting in the dark with music playing and just fighting like this with your own mother and with your own daughter. Juliana managed to get back up. She quickly turned on the lights, and that's when she saw that her mom was on the ground, covered in blood, with a knife stuck in her neck. She still was adamant that that fatal stabbing to Maria's neck was self-inflicted. She was not budging on the suicide story. Now, instead of calling the police or just calling anyone for help, Juliana dragged her mother's body into the bathroom by her legs, left her there, and locked the door. She proceeded to clean up the kitchen. She went to go shower, but that's when she was interrupted by her brother, who was knocking on the front door, and well, we know what happened after that. So authorities are listening to this confession that Juliana was saying, but they still didn't believe that this was self-defense or that Maria had caused her own fatal stabbing to herself. In a public statement, Alfredo said that psychological exams would be done to determine the validity of all of this, and said, quote, "The psychological examination from the Institute of Legal Medicine is still pending to determine her mental health, although the one who had psychiatric problems and was receiving outpatient treatment was her mother." So he was basically highlighting how Maria's mental health issues could have contributed to the events that unfolded. He wasn't justifying, what Juliana did, but implied that the whole situation might have been more complex, which became a huge detail in the media. News of Maria being crazy was being spread, and Juliana's brother Luis was really angry about this. He said that his mom never had any issues like that. She wasn't crazy or unwell or capable of killing herself. And it just made him angry that his sister was saying this. It's just terrible that she murdered her own mom, but that she was also spreading this narrative, and Luis was just really upset. He was like, how can you say these lies about our mom after you just killed her and took her away from us? In interviews, Juliana would say that her mom was, quote, unwell, and that she had, quote, problems. And Luis would hear her say this and just get so angry because he knew it wasn't true and everyone was just speaking so ill of his mom. He was also upset because the forensic examiner said that they couldn't determine if the fatal stab wound was in fact self-inflicted. So since the autopsy couldn't confirm that 100%, Juliana just kind of ran with this and twisted it, saying that it was self-inflicted since they couldn't prove otherwise. But again, Luis just knew that that wasn't true. He told the media that if they saw all the complete up close and just detailed autopsy photos like he did, everyone would realize that this was an intentional, violent, and just brutal attack against his mom, not Juliana acting in self-defense. My heart breaks for Luis. I was watching a lot of interviews with him and it just tore me up. I got so emotional, and I get emotional even thinking about it now because he's just been through so much. He's the one that discovered his mom. He had to find her in that state, and to first of all have to deal with the murder of your mother, and then deal with the fact that it was done by your own sister, your own blood, and then to hear that your sister is trying to make it seem like your mom killed herself. It's absolutely horrible, and it just breaks my heart that Luis had to go through all of this alone, which we will get into in a second. Maria's side of the family, like her siblings, cousins, and things like that, were in agreement with Luis. They were so angry at Juliana for doing this and for speaking ill of Maria. Despite their support, Luis was basically the only one in his nuclear family speaking his disbelief and anger, and he began distancing himself from his family. He said he believes his sister really thought that she was superior to her mother and thought that she had authority over her life. Now, like I mentioned earlier, Luis was basically the only person in his nuclear family that was defending his mom and was upset with how Juliana was treating the entire case and all the lies that she was spreading, etc. And I say this because Juliana's father and younger younger brother, Reich, supported her and believed that she actually was acting in self-defense. There were also people saying that sometimes mothers can be really evil and that maybe in a heated argument, her mom got even more aggressive and crazy, and that what Juliana did was basically justified because of this. Others were coming forward saying that they knew Maria, that she did have problems, and that she was actually violent with Juliana. While many other people were saying the complete opposite, saying that Maria was perfect, that she was a loving mother, that she would never hurt her daughter, that she never was violent with her, and that Juliana was a problem. I mean, just a lot of things were being said about the Llamojas all over the media, and it was just getting very intense. So the psychological exams showed that Juliana was in her right state of mind when the crime happened. The reports showed Juliana had an Electra complex, which was basically saying that Juliana had developed an attraction to her father and developed a sense of competition with her mother. The exams also revealed that she had histrionic personality, which is basically excessive attention-seeking behavior and exaggerated displays of emotion. So the media began spreading this news, and a lot of rumors were flying around about Juliana and her father's relationship, and speculating if Juliana really did kill her mother because she saw her as a competition or as an obstacle in her relationship with her father. Now, when asked about this, her brother Luis doesn't really elaborate on this. He basically just says, you'll have to ask them if they have a relationship or not, and that all he can say is that his mom was not the villain. I was trying to see if Juliana's father or if she has spoken out about this, but I wasn't able to find any confirmation or anything like that of them saying, no, I wasn't in love with my dad, no, we weren't in a relationship. But again, that is what a lot of people speculate. It could be a possibility. Now, going back to the investigation, investigators searched the Llamoja home, and they actually did find the rat poison packets in the backyard and on the third floor of the house, which I believe was like a rooftop area. In interviews with Luis, he referred to it as the third floor, but in the photos of the house, I only see 2 floors, so I'm assuming it's like a small little rooftop lounge area. Anyways, investigators also found the knife handles that were used, but they didn't find the blades. Luis says that they were never found. So investigators had Juliana telling them that she was only acting in self-defense, that her mom was the one who stabbed herself in the carotid artery, that she had thought about poisoning her mom but then ended up dismissing the idea, the fact that she had hid the knives and the rat poison, and that Juliana's psychological exams showed that she had motive to kill her mother. I mean, all of this put together was enough to charge her for aggravated murder with parricide. Now, Juliana had to go to trial to prove her side of the story. Meanwhile, Maria's family had to attend her funeral and say their final goodbyes. It must have been so incredibly difficult that day. I mean, the circumstances of her death and the fact that a member of their own family did this to her, it's so incredibly difficult. It was just a really hard day for them to go and just say their final goodbyes as Maria was laid to rest. Juliana's trial began on March 8th, 2006, and from the start, she continued to insist that she acted in self-defense. She said that she never meant to kill her mom and said that she hopes that this is all a dream that she can wake up from. She said, quote, "I'm not a monster. I don't have an evil mind. At that moment, I didn't feel like it was my mother. It was just a dark mark that was coming at me, and I wanted to stop it from hurting me." However, as the trial progressed, her statements became quite contradictory. One of the most problematic inconsistencies was her denial of any involvement with rat poison, which again was a crucial point in the investigation. Juliana completely dismissed any allegations that she had ever purchased it, used it, or even mentioned it in previous statements. She claimed that during her initial questioning, she had never spoken about rat poison at all, which is contradictive because in the investigative reports from early on, they state that she mentions rat poison and soda. Remember, she was literally saying that she wanted to do an experiment and that she mixed it together, thought about poisoning her mom, and then just poured it out. So she said that at the beginning, but now she was completely denying ever mentioning rat poison or mixing with the soda or anything. Juliana's defense insisted that she acted in self-defense after her mother began attacking her, yet on the other hand, they argued that her violent actions were the result of emotional distress caused by years of conflict with her mother. They attempted to justify her actions by claiming that she had been subjected to constant verbal and just emotional abuse at home, which allegedly pushed her to react impulsively. Juliana spoke about how one time her mom threw a Tupperware full of beans on top of her head, another time she hit her with a broom, how her mom would read her diary without permission and just violate her privacy, how she would say that her father never wanted a daughter, and when Juliana was testifying about this in the trial, she was crying and showing a lot of emotion. Her defense just really tried to downplay the severity of her attacks. They argued that the wounds she inflicted during the altercation were not deep enough to cause significant harm, and that again, the fatal stab wound to Maria's carotid artery was self-inflicted. In their version of events, Giuliana didn't cause her death. Now, as for the prosecution, while many of the 65 stab wounds on Maria's body were superficial, the sheer number of them indicated a prolonged and intentional attack, not an accident or like a quick act of self-defense. You know, if it really was self-defense and it was just kind of like a jerk motion, the prosecution was saying like it would just be like maybe 2 or 3 stabs, but 65 stabs, like that's just overkill. Plus, Maria's face had been completely disfigured. 300 stitches were needed to reconstruct her appearance for the funeral. The prosecution argued that these injuries were not consistent with self-defense. Instead, they showed a brutal assault driven by hate. In the end, the evidence against her was overwhelming, and on July 26, 2006, Giuliana was sentenced to 20 years in prison and was ordered to pay a fine of 30,000 sols, which today is roughly 8,000 US dollars, to her mother's surviving relatives as compensation for the death of their loved one. In May of 2007, Giuliana's sentence was actually reduced from 20 years to just 12 years. The judge said that Giuliana appeared very remorseful and sincere, and also considered that Giuliana was only 18 years old at the time, which contributed to the sentence reduction. In the media, all this brought up the question of, is Giuliana's father, who is a respected judge, behind this? People were accusing him of helping Giuliana and just like using his contacts to reduce her sentence. And this theory came even more to life when in May of 2009, Giuliana was actually released from prison under parole, and her fine was completely lifted. So how was that possible? To the public, the only explanation was that her dad got her out of her consequences, but Giuliana didn't even care what the public was saying. She was just like happy to be out of prison, and she just kept telling people that she had a lot of reasons to smile. She said that she would follow the rules that the judge enforced, which were the following. Rule number 1 was to not change her address without first notifying the court. The address where she was living must remain the same. 2. Prove that she has a job every 3 months by reporting to the court. 3. Stay at the designated home at night, and it would be monitored by prison authorities and the public prosecutor. If she has a job, she must inform the court of her work activities immediately after finishing her workday. The authorities will also inform immigration authorities to prevent her from leaving the country. 4. Continue with psychological therapy in the community as directed by the National Penitentiary Institute. 5. Report to the court during the last 3 working days of each month to show proof of her work or education activities. Failure to comply with any of these rules could send Giuliana back to prison. So Giuliana understood these rules, she got to work, and that was it. She reported that she had a job with her uncle's company, and in 2010, she even published a poetry book and opened a poetry blog, which is just insane. I was watching interviews with her, and it's actually kind of crazy because she really does show no remorse. She speaks like someone who didn't brutally attack their mom and kill her. So I was watching one specific interview, and it was of this guy being like, "Hi guys, I'm here with Giuliana Llamoja. She's like such a great poet and she's gonna read us some of her poetry," which again, I'm just like, why is she even being interviewed and given the time of day? And she's just sitting there with like her poetry book, reading it, saying how she's connected with poetry so much and how she's just like a different person. And then I was reading the comments under that video and everyone was like, oh my god, she's so beautiful, like I'm in love with her, like she's gorgeous, she seems so sweet. And I'm just like, I don't get it. Like, I don't know, I don't get it. I don't get how people are trying to be friends with her and trying to interview her for her poetry. I just don't think that she should be given that exposure and that time of day. So anyways, she became kind of popular in the poetry community and she continued with her law degree as well. Since then, she has made several public appearances and has even done TV interviews. I watched like a bunch of them and again, my mind was just like in shock watching these interviews because she still denies everything. In one interview nearly 6 months after her release, she said, quote, "Look, I am the person I always was, right? The girl who writes, the girl who sings to life, to love, to the sea, the girl who studies, the girl who has so many things to do, so many hobbies, and just so much to give." She was saying this interview while she was just like walking down the beach and just smiling and just like living her life.
A ver, yo soy la persona que siempre fui, ¿no? A ver, la que escribe, la que le canta la vida, el amor, al mar, la que estudia, la que, no sé, la que tiene tantas cosas por hacer, tantos hobbies, tanto que dar.
In another interview with a program called El Francotirador, Juliana said that she never ever had any rat poison or purchased any rat poison or had any plans of poisoning her mother with rat poison. She said that that was all a lie, despite her previous statement saying that she did in fact want to poison her mom but backed out.
¿Por qué fuiste a comprar veneno para ratas?
Bueno, eso es falso, Jaime. Eso es absolutamente falso.
¿No se probó en el juicio que tú compraste Coca-Cola y veneno?
Falso. Eso fue absolutamente falso. Y eso es lo que muchísimos periódicos reprodujeron.
Ah, no sabía.
Sí, eso es falso.
Pero había un testimonio tuyo en el que tú decías que habías comprado el veneno para mezclarlo
jamás.
con la
Yo nunca dije
gaseosa.
eso.
O sea, todo eso fue una patraña.
Eso fue falso. Eso fue falso.
¿Tú no compraste veneno?
No, eso fue falso. Eso fue absolutamente falso. Y eso fue...
Es bueno que lo aclares.
Sí, claro.
And she also said again that it was her mom who self-inflicted the fatal stab wound to her neck. In other interviews, she said that she got so much closer to God and that her demons haunt her, but at the end of the day, she is surrounded by angels. She said that she wanted to continue with her law degree so that she could one day make a change. She saw the horrible injustices inside the prison, and she said that she saw people who weren't supposed to be there, so she wants to fight for them. She said she'll continue with her life without being halted by people's opinions of her, so it seems like she really just wants to settle down and live her life peacefully. However, as time went by, Giuliana began breaking her parole rules, and it was her brother Luis who informed authorities of this near the end of 2011. Now, if you remember, one of the rules is that she couldn't leave the country. While on her Facebook, she shared photos from a trip that she had taken to Ecuador for a book event, and her brother Luis happened to see these photos. He said that he wasn't going out of his way to stalk his sister and see what she was doing. The photo just randomly appeared, but he saw that she was breaking the rules, so he decided to report it. Now, he says that he wasn't reporting it out of anger or to get revenge. He was simply reporting it because Giuliana killed his mother, and he just wanted to make sure that she was being held responsible for her actions. Now, he actually got quite a bit of backlash for turning in his own sister by his other brother Reich and even by his own father. By this point, Luis had basically distanced himself from his entire family. He wasn't in agreement with his brother and with his father in supporting Giuliana and defending her actions, so he just didn't really talk to them anymore. I was watching an interview with him and it just was really sad because he's it's such a lonely feeling to think am I the only one that cared about my mom? Am I the only one that loved her? Why is everyone so quick to just forgive Giuliana for what she did? And then when his dad got mad at him for turning Giuliana in for breaking her parole, he was he got mad at me as if I was the killer. He didn't even get this mad at Giuliana for actually killing her mom. He got more mad at me for turning in my sister for the parole than he did with her killing their mom. So yeah, his relationship with his dad and brother just wasn't well, and he was basically on his own. He got a scholarship to go to school without his family's help and began working and just became independent. He said that he misses the holidays and just big events and Christmas and things like that and his birthday, but he just can't return to his family as if nothing happened, which is how he said they were treating this entire thing. His mother was murdered and he wasn't going to be okay with it. He had to do his own healing and do it in his own way. So authorities were now informed of her breaking this parole rule, and they also discovered that Giuliana had missed a total of 5 therapy sessions, often didn't return to her house at night, and it turned out that she actually wasn't working at her uncle's company. And on top of that, she was also falsifying her lawyer's signatures on her paperwork that let her leave the country. So Giuliana defended herself about the fake signatures, saying that her lawyer was doing this out of revenge, because it turns out that her father and her lawyer actually had a child together in June of 2010. What? That is just so messy. Why are you messing around with your daughter's lawyer? Giuliana's father wasn't paying child support or helping out with the son, so Giuliana says that her lawyer was inventing the fake signatures just to hurt her father for not helping her with the child. Now, the lawyer reported to police that Giuliana was angry because she had reported her to the authorities for falsifying her signatures, and that in frustration, Giuliana showed up at her house and just kept insisting to be let inside, and that she ended up breaking the lower part of her bedroom window. So the lawyer was I didn't falsify anything. This girl was faking my own signature. And I don't know, I just still think it's crazy that her lawyer had a baby with her dad. What? And I was watching an interview with Luis where the reporter tells Luis about this and shows her the documents being did you know your dad has a son? And Luis was no, I didn't know this. I didn't know I had a new brother. It's just all just so messed up. So after analyzing the fake signatures with the real signatures and after confirming that she did break all those other parole rules, the judge revoked Giuliana's parole and ordered her arrest in January of 2012. She would have to serve 8 or 9 more years in prison. But when this happened, Giuliana was nowhere to be found. Authorities couldn't locate her and she just never came forward. Days and weeks went by with no signs of her. There were speculations that she had fled from Peru Peru, and Juliana's defense appealed the judge's decision and the case was taken to a higher court. The higher court actually overturned the order for Juliana's rearrest and said that upon review of the case, no evidence of misconduct was found, and they determined that the lower court had not properly warned her before revoking her status. So in March of 2012, the order to rearrest Giuliana was lifted, yet Giuliana was still nowhere to be found at this time. She was gone for more than 40 days, and when she appeared shortly after, she said that she was never in hiding, that she never fled the country, and that this entire time she was at home. So everything was basically back to normal as if nothing happened. She continued with her parole, and that was that. Her brother Luis was just really upset about this. He said that the higher court judge who lifted the rearrest order was actually a friend of his dad's and worries that maybe the dad used his connections to once again get Giuliana out of this. As for Giuliana, she was saying that her own brother tried sending her back to jail and he was like, well, my own sister killed our mother. As for Giuliana's other brother, Raish, who was 18 years old at the time, he was really happy about the judge's decision to revoke her arrest order. He said that his sister deserved a chance to rebuild her life just like anyone who completes their sentence, emphasizing that she was still young and had a future ahead of her. Reich also said how he felt caught between his two siblings' disagreements, and he admitted that the situation affected him a lot. He did distance himself from his brother Luis due to his behavior and felt that he had to defend Giuliana because it was the right thing to do. Although he and his brother Luis still talk, he said that the relationship just was never the same. Luis says that he doesn't hate his sister and that he forgave her a long time ago, but says that she just never showed any remorse or apologized to him or to his mom's family for what she did, and that's what hurts him the most. Luis went on to continue his studies and got a communications degree and a master's in public management. He speaks 3 languages and has traveled to over 80 countries and has worked in government business and NGOs as a communicator, researcher, and consultant. I truly hope that he is doing well and that each day has brought him a little more healing from the loss of his mother. He loved her so much, and I'm sure he misses her every day and just wishes that he could hug her one more time. I hope that he and his family have been able to rebuild some form of understanding, even if they're not as close as they once were. At the very least, I hope that they can be cordial and coexist without resentment weighing them down if that's what Luis wants. I'm not sure where he stands in his relationship with Giuliana, but I have seen on social media that Giuliana and her brother Reich are actively mutual on social media and comment on each other's posts and things like that, so it does seem like they are still much closer. According to reports, Giuliana apparently is now living in Germany and she did complete her law degree, but actually couldn't go on to become a lawyer in Peru or anywhere else basically because of her criminal history. I've seen varying reports as to what she does for work, but yeah, that's pretty much where she is as of today. She still says that what she did was in self-defense. This case continues to have a lot of unanswered questions, such as what truly happened in the house between Juliana and her mom, what Juliana's true intentions were, how she actually feels about it, and of course, the legal processes in this case, and if her father had any influence on them. I hope Maria's family has found peace and healing after the loss of their loved one. For Luis, his mother was so much more than the way she died. He wants people to remember her as a kind, caring, and loving woman she was. He said, quote, "She was a good person, a caring person who loved her children and who never caused them harm." My thoughts and prayers go out to Maria's loved ones. This just broke my heart, and just thinking about how much Juliana and Maria fought, how hurtful and just ugly their relationship was is just really sad. It's sad thinking about fighting with your mom that way, of just never getting along, of hating each other and then escalating to something physical. It's just heartbreaking to think of that type of relationship with your mom and just vice versa as well. This just shouldn't have happened and it didn't need to escalate to this point. The way Maria was killed is just so brutal, and like I said, I hope her family has healed from this. I would love to know what you guys think about this down below. Thank you all so much for being here to listen to today's case. If you guys are new to the channel, welcome. I hope you guys can click the subscribe button down below to join the familia. You can also turn on the notification button to never miss a future video. My second channel, where we discuss thriller/horror movies, is linked down below if you guys ever just want to take a break and just talk about something fictional. That channel is really fun, so that is linked down below. And yeah, that's pretty much everything I have to say. Again, thank you all so much for being here and for supporting this channel so much. I appreciate you guys so much. And oh, also I forgot, I have a a like document, I guess you could say, or like a list down below of small Latina businesses. If you guys want to check them out, they are absolutely amazing, and I just wanted to give them a shout out. So if you guys are ever looking for a new business to support, that list is down below. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye, familia.